What's going on? This is Saw is War. My name is Dustin, and it is a great day to talk about wrestling because this weekend, finally, is AEW All In 2024 from Wembley Stadium once again. But before we get into that with predictions and breakdowns and all of that, I do want to run through the week in WWE news on their side of things as they continue to build towards Bash at Berlin, which I believe is next weekend. So it's going to be a busy time for wrestling fans, but the busier the better usually, because that means there's a pretty high level of wrestling going on at basically all times now, it seems. So let's go through WWE before we hit everything going on with All In. Like I said, on the WWE side of things, it's a lot of building towards Bash at Berlin with the event next week. We know we're going to have Randy Orton taking on Gunther for the WWE title. We also found out that CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre 2 will now be a strap match, which is an interesting stipulation for the two of them, but it fits what this rivalry has been so far and just how, like, heated and hateful it's been. It feels like it's a rarely used stipulation, but if it's anything close to what the MJF CM Punk dog collar match was in AEW, like, obviously that's a different level of blood and violence, but a strap match between these two has a lot of potential to kind of be the WWE version of that match, I guess, in sorts, if that makes sense. We also got some teases. I don't know if this will get added to the card, but Bronson Reed destroyed The Miz. The Miz was looking for revenge after Bronson Reed took out R-Truth and destroyed The Miz. The wave of tsunamis, once again, the most over finisher in the company, I think, right now. The crowd gets crazy when he goes up to the top rope to hit that move. Like, it's a spectacle every time, and that is probably as good a sign as any that it is working. Whatever they are doing with him is absolutely working right now. But we did get a big tease at the end of that segment where Braun Strowman came out to make the save and to put an end to Bronson Reed just crushing The Miz. So it looks like that's the destination that we're going here. That's a great matchup for Bronson Reed because it gives him someone that he can, kind of show off his power even more. He can kind of, legitimize himself even more, even though destroying Seth Rollins, is a pretty surefire way to start building legitimacy. Like, racking up wins like this is going to be, an important part of building him into this legitimate monster heel on Raw. So I don't know if it'll be at Bash in Berlin. It'll probably be over the next couple weeks or so. We'll see this play out on Raw, most likely. But Bronson Reed and Braun Strowman is a great choice for a first, like, long-term or multi-match feud for Bronson Reed on this run here. And then also, we got more build in the New Day, Dissension, Odyssey Jones triangle. They beat the Final Testament because, of course, they beat the Final Testament in a six-man tag match. Who knows if that's the end of the rivalry? I don't know if that's the end of the rivalry. They might wrestle again for, the next 2 months. But the story here is not that feud. The story here is, of course, the New Day and the breakdown in communication between Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. There were those shots throughout the match on Monday where Xavier Woods just looked upset. Of course, Kofi gets the hot tag to Odyssey Jones, who would then also get the pinfall win for the team. And Xavier Woods is just so good and expressive with his facial expressions. Like, he was absolutely telling you everything you needed to know about his character, where he stood in this storyline, and how he was feeling about things, and it was fantastic. It was fantastic work. I still don't think that it's the right idea to split these guys up after all this time. And that honestly might be personal preference more than anything, but we'll see what happens. It's continuing to unfold at a weird pace because they did the whole Final Testament feud for like a month or two and then introduced Odyssey Jones into it and like gave it this entirely different wrinkle as that feud was kind of reaching its natural end. So I'm a little unsure why they're doing it all this way, but these guys being involved in such a meaningful storyline is something that, I've wanted to see again for a while. And so to give them something like this where they can really like sink their teeth into the layers of it, I'm enjoying seeing how that unfolds, even if I don't really like where it's most likely heading. And you know, and that I think for the most part was about it on Raw. We got a Judgment Day beats down Damian Priest and Rhea Ripley segment where they, you know, each basically tried to take turns outsmarting each other, where Damian Priest was like, "Oh, I saw the ambush coming," and then it was like, "Okay, well, here's the ambush. You still can't stop it." Like, and, you know, it was cool though. I appreciate what they're doing. I do not appreciate how hard they are pushing the Terror Twins as the new name for Rhea Ripley and Damian Priest. I don't know if that's a me thing. Like let me know in the comments or anything. Do you like the Terror Twins as a name? I think I saw they have shirts up now on the WWE shop. It's a little fast for me when you consider some of the people that like have one shirt or no shirts. It's a little weird to like immediately throw the Terror Twins up, but you know, that could just be me. Those guys continue to be white hot, so I'm gonna be proved wrong in like 2-3 weeks when everyone has Terror Twins shirts. But that was Raw. And NXT was again the most consistent wrestling show on television. We have a new number one contender for the NXT Championship who will face Ethan Page at No Mercy, and it is the TNA legend himself, Joe Hendry. He defeated Pete Dunne and Wes Lee to earn the number one contender spot, despite Ethan Page doing everything he can to foil it, trying everything in the book to keep Joe Hendry from winning. And I don't know if they're going to make the move to put the title on Joe Hendry. It feels like a step too far in this NXT-TNA collaboration. Like, it feels like they won't go that far, but he is really in a great spot. And I've said this probably every week that he's been on NXT that I've done this show. He has benefited so much from everything that they've been doing. He really has been someone that has made the most of this collaboration and this opportunity, and he is absolutely taking full advantage of it. And it's interesting because I know that people haven't been super high on Ethan Page, on his reign, on him as a champion, whatever you want to call it. But what they're doing with his matches and his stories have been these really good, interesting, like storyline focused type matches. So you have someone like Obafemi who has the North American title, and that's like the crazy matches. Like you think about, you know, they just had Obafemi and Otis last week on NXT, and that was a hard hitting, crazy match that popped the crowd a ton. And then like with Ethan Page and whoever he's wrestling, it's more of a deliberate type of like story driven style, and I think that suits him a lot. And it also like kind of subtly lets the opponents really come into their own and really dictate what the match is going to be. Like you look at someone like Oro Mensah, who had his match with Ethan Page a couple weeks ago, and he came out of it looking like you know, he looked great. He looked way ahead of where I would have thought he would have been, and he fit and belonged in that spotlight really well. And I think that's a testament to him, obviously, and to Ethan Page as a champion, and the style of matches that they have been putting on during his reign. So I'm interested, of course, to see a Joe Hendry-Ethan Page title match. I am not going to get my hopes up that they decide to put the NXT title on a TNA guy. My thought was that at first when he won and the match was official, I was like, you know, he lost it he lost the TNA title match that he had at I think Slammiversary a few weeks back. Like, was it so he could be freed up to go do this and win the NXT title? Like, the thought is there. I don't think it'll happen, but in my heart of hearts, I would like it to happen, if that makes sense. And then we also got for the women's side of things, the number one contender for the women's title will face Roxanne Perez at No Mercy as well. It is going to be Jada Parker, who won the Women's Eliminator Gauntlet on NXT this last Tuesday, which was filled with like the weirdest collection of stars. So the match was Jada Parker versus Ren Sinclair, Sol Ruca, Adriana Rizzo, Brynlee Reese, and Kendall Gray. And a couple of those people, like, I just have not seen in the ring a whole lot. And it made for some awkward moments in the match. Like, it felt like Sol Ruca was really doing a lot to try to be like one of the leaders of the match. Jada Parker came out last, which kind of, you know, didn't help with things feeling a little stilted and stop and start, and a lot of people standing and pausing and waiting for a second for their moment to go in. It didn't have the flow to it that I think a lot of these great gauntlet match types can have. It's not to say, you know, obviously everyone in NXT is still learning, is still coming into their own. Not everyone is, you know, a natural from the word go, and I appreciate, you know, how hard it probably is to, you know, be thrown in a main event level match on, you know, national television and be told, okay, like, don't mess up or it's gonna be on the internet forever. Like, that's a lot of pressure. That's crazy. And so I always, with NXT in particular, try to keep that in mind and not be like super crazy harsh on anyone, because like it's a tough spot to be in. And you know, Jada Parker winning is the absolute right choice. I think her and Roxanne will have a great match. I don't think Jada Parker's going to win, because I think Stephanie Vacour and Julia are still the money matches to have with Roxanne Perez as the champion. But I do think that this will nonetheless be a really good match between the two of them. And then on SmackDown tonight, I'm recording this Friday night after SmackDown, we had a couple interesting developments. The Bloodline defended the tag team titles against the Street Profits. They emerged victorious, but before that, there was a promo segment where Solo Sikoa asked Jacob Fatu to turn in his tag title and give it to Tonga Loa. And the crowd is chanting, "You can't wrestle," at Tonga Loa. And Solo's like, you got to give him the title, because now you're going to be my number one enforcer. You're my special enforcer. So you can't be the champion, because you have to be around to enforce me at all times. And it was a good segment. It was interesting. It was all made really funny by the fact that everything Jacob Fatu did, he was still wearing the walking boot. So it was like he was just ready to just go wrestle and defend the tag titles in a walking boot. I think on the foot he super kicks with. But it was interesting, because obviously when you think about the Bloodline and their story, the Bloodline story took so long to get to anything. It felt like there were so many nights after pay-per-views or things where people would hop online and everyone was saying like, man, this is going too slow. I need something, pick it up. I need something new to keep me invested and to keep me entertained in all of this. And this feels like, not like the like response to that or the result to that, but it feels like a mindful choice given all of that, because this Solo asking Jacob Fatu to hand over the belt was like the first moment of like, oh, maybe Jacob Fatu doesn't listen to him. Like, maybe he's going to start doubting him. Maybe this is where the first seeds are kind of planted here. And, you know, Jacob Fatu taking over this iteration of the Bloodline, which is kind of inevitable already. Jacob Fatu is, they call him the Samoan werewolf. He's like if you put a volcano in a wrestling ring in terms of just how charismatic and electric he is every time he's in the ring. And so I kind of think this is more a product of them knowing that they cannot keep Jacob Fatu as a second banana here in the faction for super long, and that the money match is honestly probably Roman and Jacob Fatu at some point. Like the beatdown segment from last week where Fatu destroyed Roman with his foot in a walking boot. I will say it every single time. It was incredible. I think they realize what they have, and I think they realize that, you know, the crowd and everybody won't reasonably believe and suspend disbelief that Jacob Fatu being presented like this absolute destroyer, this world beater, would just be cool with, you know, being the second fiddle and being run down like that. So, if anything, I think that's probably more what this is in response to. I think this is more like trying to start planting the seeds now and maybe buy yourself some more time where, you know, people are already speculating on it, and then it's going to be like, okay, well, maybe this is this, and maybe, you know, they're going to plant the seeds more here, and maybe it's this. So I don't know if this is, you know, to try to get people to start thinking about it now, or if it just is something that they happened to come up with and walk into. But like I've said, since Roman's been back and since everything has happened the last like month or so, like this Bloodline story has really leveled up in a way that I did not expect. And then we know the title match for Cody Rhodes at Bash in Berlin is going to be versus Kevin Owens, and SmackDown this week was built around people telling Cody Rhodes that he can't trust Kevin Owens. There's a whole 2-minute video package of all the times Kevin Owens has betrayed people. And it was pretty funny because Kevin Owens is like, all of them deserved it except for Kofi. Like, I feel bad that I turned on Kofi when I, you know, put the New Day shirt on and pretended to be all about the New Day when he was world champion. But everyone else deserved it. Like, hey, you know, no apologies here. I did what I had to do. And it was really interesting, and it created a lot more tension and drama than I expected. There was a tag team match at the end of the night with Cody and Kevin teaming to take on A-Town Down Under, which I don't know how they are still a team. It feels like they tease a split for those guys every week, maybe twice in a show sometimes. Like, it is crazy that they are still together after all of this time with all of the teased splits so far. But they win. There's like 3-4 minutes left in the show until the show's over. And so everyone's like, oh man, here we go. Here we go. Here's the swerve. Here's the turn. And they hinted at it really well with Kevin holding the title and then giving it to Cody. And who knows? Who knows if this is going to keep going, if he's going to wait and turn at the last second at the go-home show next week, or if it's something that's going to happen at the pay-per-view or after the match. But using his history of being that backstabber and that betrayer is a really smart way to go, because Kevin Owens has always been one of those guys who seems to be like, yeah, dude, I watch the shows. Like, I know what happens now. Like, the way he refers to everything in wrestling is he's like the only self-aware wrestler in the company, except for maybe, you know, Drew McIntyre is on that level as well on Raw. So to use that and to play into it is a really smart thing, because, you know, you have a great source for drama and tension there just waiting in all of his past issues and his past betrayals. So I really appreciated that they did that, and the video package was just hilarious. Like, it was really well done. The WWE video team, undefeated as always. So I think that's everything for the WWE side. If I missed anything, like always, you can comment, send an email. I'll put the email address in the show notes and description. So please, if there's anything I missed, anything that really stood out to you this week, let me know. Otherwise, let's get into AEW All In. Now, I know I said we'd get to the All In card with predictions, but before I do that, there was a little bit of AEW news that could potentially have some big implications this weekend. That is that midweek, we found out that Ricochet had apparently signed a multi-year deal with AEW and was actually en route at the time to London to appear at the All In show. Now, I don't know where they would put him, and I've been thinking about that a lot, and like what the best use of him would be. And I think he's such a notable star and a big signing for them that to slide him in as like a guest appearance in the Casino Gauntlet or something just kind of doesn't feel like enough. Like, I kind of feel like he should be treated similar to how Will Ospreay arrived in AEW, where he comes in and he's established as one of the best right away. And I just think the Casino Gauntlet seems to me like it's already pretty well laid out for Hangman Adam Page to win and to set up that title match with Swerve Strickland. So I don't know, obviously, because we'll see what happens with the main event. There's so many directions they can go with so many spots on this card. But to me, if I'm bringing Ricochet in, I think the thing that makes the most sense to me is to have him debut after MJF versus Will Ospreay. Like, I can picture it so clearly. So Will Ospreay finally hits the Tiger Driver on MJF. The crowd goes crazy. He's in Wembley, in his home country. He gets the international title design back, and he's, you know, emotional, crying. Maybe he's like at the banner or at the rail talking to his family or something, celebrating some big, huge, feel good moment. And then boom, have Ricochet debut right there. Have him come out and set up a match for All Out for the international title. Because that way, you immediately put Ricochet on the level of someone like a Will Ospreay. You put him in contention for one of the top titles in the company, and you really make him feel like a big deal. Because the biggest complaint with Ricochet in WWE was that he would get this stop-start booking, and he would do things that were incredible, but in the end, he wouldn't be given, like what he was given didn't match his potential and his talent level, if that makes sense. So if he goes to AEW and debuts in the Casino Gauntlet and has like a nice 10-minute run and then gets like eliminated or loses, he kind of just feels like another guy. And I think he's too big of a talent to have that happen to him. So I think creating a moment like that where he does not have to wrestle and he just comes out and stares down Will Ospreay, or he stares down MJF if the unthinkable happens and MJF wins too. I think it would work the same exact way. But Tony Khan is someone that has always been good about immediately booking those dream matches. Like, hey, we got these talents here, they're ready to go, let's do it. It's very anti-WWE in that sense, where they would, wait and wait and wait and wait. Sometimes wait too long, honestly. Tony Khan's the opposite of that, and Ricochet versus Will Ospreay makes a ton of sense as like the match people want to see if he goes to AEW, if all of this is official. So we'll see what happens, but that's what I would do. I would have Will Ospreay win and then have Ricochet debut right after that. So with all that said, let's get to the AEW All In card. It is 10 matches, 1 pre-show match, 9 main card matches listed so far. And, the thing about AEW pay-per-views is you're always going to get your money's worth with them. Like, whether every story works for you or not, whether every match is enjoyable or not, you are going to get a packed card that is probably at least 5 hours long looking at this. Like, it starts early over here. I'm on the West Coast, 10 a.m. I will be up and ready to go. 1 p.m. Eastern Time. It is going to be a marathon. It is going to be a long show, but it looks top to bottom like it's going to be a lot of fun. So this is Wikipedia order. We have the pre-show match is Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway taking on Willow Nightingale and Ishii. And this right away is kind of an interesting one because Willow is, I say it all the time, probably the most over babyface in the company. So I could easily see them going with something where they win, Ishii and Willow pick up the win, and, we start the main card with them celebrating. But the inclusion of Stokely Hathaway here, actually being in the match, makes me think that this is going to be something where they pull off, like, some underhanded tactic to get the win, to steal the win. Because Stat still just recently turned heel, and I feel like her and Willow are 1-1 so far in the series of matches between the two of them. So it just feels a little too early to have them really continuing to take L's like this. So I'm gonna flip it, and I'm gonna say I think Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway take the win. The first match listed for the main card is the AEW Women's World Championship match between Timeless Toni Storm and Mariah May. And this honestly could be a main event match for the card with how well they have built this story and how well this story has played out. And everything to me points to this being Mariah May's time to take over the division and finish this All About Eve type story that they've been telling. I kind of think there's no way around it if they're going to tell the story to its logical conclusion. I would like to see her win because I think she's kind of one of the shots in the arm that the women's division for AEW needs. But on the other hand, Timeless Toni Storm, I did not see a long-term future for her doing this character. I thought once she loses the title, it'll be kind of back to Toni Storm as normal and snap her out of this. But the evolutions and the layers she's continued to add to this character have been pretty incredible, and especially now, this scorned, crazy, out of control, starlet is just such a good wrinkle to this character. It's been so interesting to watch, and I think that's part of why this is such a compelling matchup. I wouldn't be surprised if they would put this on to really start the show, but I do think that this is going to be a Mariah May victory here, and we'll have a new women's world champion. Next up, and I will not spend too much time on this because I talked about it a little bit already, we have MJF versus Will Ospreay for the AEW American/International Championship. I laid out kind of what I'm hoping to see here. I really hope this is an Ospreay win, leading to a Ricochet debut and a match tease between the two of them. The first match was a 59-minute and 59-second classic that I know was polarizing to a lot of people. And I think a big thing now has been, how do they top that? And I think that this is going to end up being more of a story-driven match, as opposed to, you know, crazy cardio and endurance and spots and going move for move. I think this will probably be a little bit more built around the story of MJF doing anything to win and Will Ospreay accepting that he can use the Tiger Driver. They had that moment with Will and Bryan Danielson on Dynamite this last week where Danielson basically was like, do the move. So it's kind of pointing to that's going to be the moment, and that's going to be the thing that finally puts Ospreay over the top. I kind of thought it was going to be like the catalyst for a heel turn at some point, like if they continued to not have him use it. But this will work too, and I just really hope we see this be the spot where Ricochet makes his debut. Next up, we have the TNT title match, Jack Perry defending against Darby Allin in a coffin match. This is something where this Elite storyline with the EVP, Young Bucks, and Okada and everything has been a lot of fun, but it also feels kind of like it's been happening forever. Like it's just been going on and on. I know that's not true, but I couldn't give you a timetable on it. Like it feels like they need to change something, to evolve something in some way. And this has all been great for Jack Perry. I don't mean to take anything away from him or like try to make it seem like he hasn't been doing an incredible work. I really think he's done a great job reinventing himself with all this scapegoat stuff. And they had the video of him customizing the title himself, and that's kind of really cool to see too. To see him actually do it himself with the all black and the red splatters and everything. Like it looked cool, and it was a good extension of his personality, and I think that that's been really good. But I'm gonna say I think Darby Allin takes this. I think the Elite need a new type of direction to go to, or a new wrinkle to add to this storyline, because it's just been so similar for the last few weeks. They need something, and I think the coffin match is a great signature match for Darby Allin too, kind of like how like Undertaker had Hell in a Cell and Mankind Mick Foley had the I Quit match. I really like, I could see this becoming Darby's signature thing. Next up, we have the TBS Championship being defended. Mercedes Moné defends against Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. Yes, you have to say the whole thing every time. You cannot skip Doctor or DMD. I have been told it is a fine if you do. This is one where I think this is going to be a Mercedes Moné win. It feels too early to pull the plug on this title reign, and I think now that she's fully entrenched as a heel with Camille acting as her muscle, it's just getting started. My perfect booking for this, like what I envision, is Mercedes wins, and then Mercedes and Camille start to like do the post-match attack on Britt Baker, and then Jamie Hayter makes the save. Because if Jamie Hayter, like, we have no idea what's been going on with her and what her recovery has been like, or what even really she's been dealing with. And like, if she doesn't return at Wembley Stadium, like, I just don't know when else would be the time to bring her back. And I know there have been tons of reports that Hayter and Britt Baker had a huge falling out or something, or didn't want to work together anymore. I kind of think that might just be rumors, just because it seems there's always rumors going around about AEW. But I'm really hoping that we get a Jamie Hayter return here, because this women's division like really needs someone like her back in the mix. So I'm going to say Mercedes Moné retains. Next up, we have the Casino Gauntlet match for a future chance at the AEW World title. So far, we've only got 6 confirmed entrants, and those are Orange Cassidy, Mark Briscoe, Kyle O'Reilly, Hangman Adam Page, Evil Uno, and Roderick Strong. Orange Cassidy will start first, which is actually an advantage for this match, because this is not styled like a typical gauntlet match would be. This is 1 pinfall wins, so the sooner you get the pinfall before more people can come out, the better. This feels like it's going to be a huge spot for some returns. The return I kind of envision the most, the road I could see this going down, is if Jon Moxley returns here and wins, and then we set up Jon Moxley versus Bryan Danielson if Bryan wins the title in the main event. I think that could be an interesting build with, Bryan kind of saying this is the last stretch of my career here, and Moxley taking on the role of like, well, we're friends, we're stablemates, but I want that title. I'm going to do what I have to do. Like, I think that's an interesting dynamic. The thing is, I don't think it's as interesting and dynamic as Swerve and Hangman for the title. And Hangman being on this warpath of I've been wronged and I'm gonna take this all away because I hate you. I think this unhinged Hangman that we've been getting recently is awesome. And so I'm leaning Hangman Page here. We'll see what else they have in store as far as surprises go for this match. But I think it sets up too nicely. But I will say, if Hangman wins this, I'm going to be really, like, kind of expecting a Swerve retention in the title match. So this might be something where someone else wins and it completely swerves everything. We'll see. But I'm going to say Hangman Adam Page wins the gauntlet match. Next up, we have a match that I think probably could have been on the pre-show. It is Chris Jericho defending the FTW title versus Hook. And if Hook loses, he cannot challenge for the title again as long as Jericho is the champion. This feud feels like it has been going on for like 6 months. And I think that's just the effect of the Jericho Vortex. But I'm so ready for Hook to be on to bigger and better things. He's so talented. He proved it with some matches earlier this year. The match he had with Samoa Joe on Dynamite was awesome. I don't need him doing this nonstop. And I think the thing here is he needs to win this. But he should win this and then just like give the title to Taz and be like, hey, you hang on to this. I'm moving up. I need to challenge for some other titles. Because the FTW title, they say it every week, is not recognized by AEW. It's not like a legitimized title. It's something Taz started and Taz has done and run over his career. So Hook winning and holding that title again, it's nice, but if he goes right back to just holding that title, then he's right back to where he started, and it feels like a misuse of his talent and of his potential. So I think Hook wins, and I'm hoping that this leads to a moment where he kind of hands the title in and starts to look at bigger and better things. Next up, we have the triple threat tag team match for the AEW tag team titles. It is the Young Bucks versus FTR versus the Acclaimed. Honestly, I know this is going to be a good match. Like, my brain tells me it is going to be a good match because it is a lot of talented people involved that always put on good matches together. But, like, feels like more of the same for the tag team, like the AEW tag team division. Tag team wrestling as a whole in AEW and WWE has really felt like underserved when they were such strengths before. And, there's a ton of teams that you would never believe would have a shot at winning these titles or being in this match even, and I think that's a disservice to the talent that they have on the roster and in that division. So I know it'll be a good match. I'm a little kind of tired of all of these teams, kind of like I said. I'm gonna go FTR because I think, like I said with Jack Perry, the Young Bucks and the EVP stuff kind of needs a refresh, maybe getting away from the titles. They've defended them once since they won them a few months back, so like just some type of reset, refresh is what they're in need of. And then with the Acclaimed, same thing, but this is more I think it's time to see what Anthony Bowens can do on a singles run, because that dude is so talented. I really think he could do great things as a singles competitor as well. He might be totally happy running the Acclaimed and doing the tag team matches, and the division would be even weaker without them there, but I do think his talent is just crazy. So that leaves FTR, and hopefully they could start to have good matches with other teams and kind of help establish these younger teams that AEW has, because it really does feel like a lot of the focus has shifted from the tag titles to the trios titles, in the sense of, this match, this triple threat match, people are kind of like, okay, that'll be cool. That's cool. Whereas the next match, the 4-way London ladder match for the AEW World Trios titles, which is the Patriarchy versus the Bang Bang Gang versus the House of Black versus, spoiler alert, if you have not watched Collision yet, it was pre-taped, so these spoilers have all leaked well in advance, but the fourth team will be Pac and Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta of the Blackpool Combat Club. And that match just sounds like everything you want in a show-stealing match. Like, this is going to be awesome. A ladder match with guys like Killswitch and Brody King and Juice Robinson and Claudio and Wheeler. Like, it's so many talented people in here with so many different styles that are all going to blend together. Like, I really could see this being the match of the night. Like, that just blows everyone away. I'll be interested to see where it is on the card. But this, I'm going to say House of Black. And the interesting thing here, and having it right next to the tag match on the list, is so interesting because whereas, like, with the tag match, any of those teams could win, and I'd be like, okay, that's cool. With this trios match, any of these teams could win, and I could see it being, like, you know, completely deserved. Like, the House of Black can win, and it would be a great direction for the titles. The Patriarchy can retain, and Christian Cage is still doing some of the best work of his career right now, so it's not like that would be a bad thing. The Bang Bang Gang is always entertaining, and putting the gold back on them is totally fine, even if Jay White is still out, even if it's still Cardboard Switchblade. Like, it is okay. Like, all of these teams are so... Even Pac and the two members of the Combat Club, like, they're all such talented people. Like, that's the only one where they're not an established trio, and I would still be just as happy to see it. So, I don't know. I'm going to say House of Black, but this is one that I'm really excited to see. And then in our main event, it is title versus career. AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland defends against Bryan Danielson, who has said if he loses this match, his career will be over. Bryan Danielson is also a very known and self-admitted liar that, in his own words, loves to lie and mess with fans and their expectations on things. So this is really, like, the most torn I have been in a match in a long time, like, on what could happen. Because, like, I can see Bryan Danielson winning and going on this run where it's like, okay, when I lose the title, I'm done. Like, this is it. This is borrowed time now. And he's kind of like a Ronin of wrestling where he doesn't have a contract, but he can, you know, continues to do everything because he's got the title and he's got to, you know, uphold the title. And there's all the stories behind the scenes about how badly Tony Khan wants him to hold the title and wants him to be included in that list, and how Danielson's more concerned with establishing, you know, the young talent and you know, really using his pedigree and his standing as one of the best wrestlers ever to help establish those names. And Swerve, for his part, since a shaky start to his title reign, he has been an incredible champion. His matches have all been great to very great. His appearances, his work as an ambassador for the company, doing all these interviews, all this press, has been awesome. He's a great champion. He's a great face for AEW. If he loses to Bryan Danielson, I don't think he loses much. He has already been established and essentially made as a top guy for the company. He has already been established and essentially made as a top guy for the company. So even if he loses to Bryan Danielson, whose whole storyline here is desperation because it's win or go home, like, I don't think he loses a whole lot. But all of that said, I think I'm still leaning Swerve Strickland gets the win. I think I'm thinking Swerve retains as big a feel-good moment as it would be. I think there are ways to book around this stipulation. I think it's probably based on how much they've mentioned Bryan's family. His kids and Bree will probably be there in some capacity. I could see them getting involved and saying, like, you know, it's okay, like, you need to finish this, or, you know, don't worry, like, you did great, we're so proud of you. And, like, I keep thinking of, like, the end of WrestleMania 30, where he is holding the titles and everyone's celebrating, and it's such a feel-good moment, like one of the best moments in modern WWE. And I keep thinking about that in the sense of this show is in Wembley Stadium. 50,000 plus people will be there. And you want that show, you want that crowd to end like an uproarious yes chants. Like, there's no getting around it. It was a great moment for WrestleMania 30. It will be a great moment for All In if they do it. But what I'm thinking is it's more of like a bittersweet, like almost like salute to Danielson in his career. So say he loses and you get the spot where Swerve leaves and the crowd celebrates and everything, and then Bryan is just left in the ring and the music stops, and then you get the chants and the thank yous and the yeses and everything, and it's more of like an emotional bookends to that WrestleMania 30 moment where, you know, it comes kind of full circle and he's lost, but he's like made his peace with it. And this, I might just be talking myself into this because it feels like crazy to think that, you know, Monday, like Wednesday could come, the next Dynamite could come, and he's just not wrestling anymore. Like, that feels crazy to me. But all of that said, I'm going to say I think Swerve retains. I think this title reign continues because I think the money match for All Out is going to be Swerve versus Hangman Adam Page. I think that just makes the most sense as a title motivated feud right now as well, given their history and the way they continue to keep those guys closely tied together. So yeah, there we go. I'm going to say Swerve Strickland shocks the world and retains in what will be a definite instant classic. So there we go. That is the All In card. Please let me know what you think, what you're excited to see, what you're hoping to see. You can hit the comment section or send an email. I'll always put the email address in the show notes or in the description, so look for it there. Guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and more importantly, I hope everyone enjoys All In. I will see you after the show at some point for some type of review, recap, anything like that. But for now, please everybody, stay safe, have a good weekend, enjoy the show.